If you follow any content on your social media platform that deals with self help, the great outdoors, and inspirational or motivational quotes, then you've probably seen this gentleman by the name of Scott Tatum, who always gives us a friendly reminder.
Friendly reminder. The reason they keep putting you through everything is because you keep staying through everything. Stop it. Know your worth. Friendly reminder. You can't make someone love you by giving them more of what they already don't appreciate. Know your worth.
All right, Scott Tatum, good morning.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for joining me. I'm happy to have you on here. Let me apologize for wearing sunglasses right now while we talk. I wish I had a great story for you, but yesterday I was drying my hair after a shower and the towel went around and slapped my eye and cut part of my eye, and my eye is really red and swollen. So it's not that I'm trying to look like a rock star while we talk. It's just that's the reason why I'm wearing these sunglasses. But
Absolutely. Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah, that hurt. That kind of stuff hurts. Unexpected.
it's always I've always been taught that it's rude to talk to people with sunglasses on. So that's why I wanted to apologize to you before we get
Yeah.
started. Well, look, man, I'm
No
really
worries.
happy to talk to you because you have an interesting journey and an interesting life. And before I get into any questions, I want to share with people that are watching this how you and I met each other and how we know each other. And then I want to know your side of the story if it matches on what I remember in my recollection. But
Okay.
last year, I was hiking the Appalachian Trail, and a friend of mine named Deborah Sharkey sent me one of your friendly reminder links on Instagram and asked me if I knew you, assuming that maybe because we were both hikers and outdoor enthusiasts that I knew you. I didn't know you. So I told her, look, I follow his content, but I don't know him. I think it was about 2 weeks later, I was setting up camp on the Appalachian Trail and you happened to walk by, but I didn't recognize you because it was kind of a distance. We had like a pleasant back and forth. It was a rainstorm coming in, but it was
Yes.
the next day. There was about a 14-mile stretch where there was no more water. So I needed to top off. And the only way to top off was a water source that was half a mile off trail, downhill, rugged terrain, which was about a 45-minute turnaround. And you happened to be there too. And we
Mhm.
started talking. And then I recognized you. I said, hey, do you do like motivational stuff on Instagram? And then that's when I realized who you were. And we had a very pleasant conversation. Fast forward, we bounced across each other on the Appalachian Trail, and then we camped one night in Pennsylvania, Rocksylvania, as we called it up north of Pennsylvania. And we
Yeah.
had a great night and had dinner together and became friends, exchanged contact information, and here we are. How do you remember?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I think though, just for grins is when we first met that first time I walked up on you on trail. I was looking for a place to camp, and that was a little bit of a stretch where there wasn't much happening, and I think it was closing in on dusk. But I think it had already rained. I think you were. I think when I walked up on you, I think you might have been in your skivvies and you were hanging stuff on the
Drying.
clothesline or something.
Yeah, that's about
And so yeah, and then I camped up, probably went a mile up or something. I don't remember that part, but I just camped out off the trail, and then you rolled up on me the next morning, and when I was packing up, and then yeah, we eventually hit again down by that water source, which traveling a half mile like that is always fun. Anyways, yeah, we met and talked for a few minutes, and that was very accurate. And then we camped together. You came in one night when I was already set up, and then we just kind of we leapfrogged each other a little bit, and yeah, until I got ended up getting off trail. But yeah, yeah, so that's how it all started.
it's great to hear. And there's some people that I share your content from time to time on my Instagram, for example, and friends of mine will be like, hey, well said, love his page. And then I've told a few people, hey, look, I know him, I've met him, he's a great guy. What I've known from him so far in person is exactly what he portrays. But Scott, you've inspired me in a lot of ways. So I turned 51 this year, and you're in your early 60s. And I always look at someone like you and go, that's how I want to continue to live life or make it my way. And if I'm not mistaken, about 10 years ago, you decided to make a complete change in your life. And then over the last 5 years, you've been very adventurous, nomadic. Can you expound upon that? Where were you in life when you made that bold decision to make bold changes? And what do you do over the last 10 years?
Yeah, it's pretty it's looking back on it now and the things that have happened, it's pretty simple. It's been simplified as I used to make it very difficult and um where it used to be. But 10 years ago, I was just in a bad place. I've been 5 decades, I was living my life um by the seat of my pants, and I was living from past, all my past, even when I was my childhood traumas, and tried to push those and bring those into adulthood with me. And survival skills that you develop at a young age to try to, to sometimes stay alive,
Yeah.
those are great, and a lot of them are very, very good skills to have when you are an adult. But most of them do not transfer into adulthood. The Your relationships are going to suffer. Anything you've got going on, because you're making decisions that don't apply
Right.
to what's happening. You're still making decisions and dealing with things from a non-healed place, and that just again didn't work. So as I went through a couple of marriages, kids, businesses, almost hitting that pinnacle and always self sabotaging, and all those, again, those things that don't translate. I was very good at putting a stop to any success that was coming my way. Whether a lot of that self worth stuff I talk about now didn't have any, so there was no way I was going to have anything that made me garner any of it, because I just wasn't feeling it. So, anyways, got to a place when my boys were older, and my youngest was going to be moving out, and I had made a decision. This was about 5 years ago, where I wanted to now move, and I wanted to travel. I wanted to minimalize. I had lived chasing, and trying to beat the hell out of the Joneses as well, and doing all that stuff that never fulfilled me, never made me happy. And
Yes.
so that 5 years leading up to it, I had done a lot of work on myself. So I was getting into a place where I wanted to make some decisions. Again, I wanted to minimalize. So I got rid of sticks and bricks, bought a 16-foot camper, made a 2-year commitment to travel in that and hike, because hiking is part of what saved my life in that process too. But and then I minimalized. So I was in that 2.5 years, sold that. Um, I still have my same truck, and I took the passenger seat out, built a platform, put a topper on the back, did all that, traveled in that for a year. And the plan was until I got on the Appalachian Trail. And then when I got on the Appalachian Trail, I was just going to be in my backpack. So, and everything I have is in storage. So I felt that was a good point to now start. When I came off the trail, leading up to it, my thought process when I came off the trail was, now what do I want? What do I really want?
Sure.
I've done all this work, and I've come to a different place in my life, and so all I knew at that point was I just wanted to go back out and travel again.
Yeah.
So I hadn't made any decisions about where I wanted to live or any other big changes. I just wanted to continue this lifestyle. And I'll just jump back real quick. Hiking in the outdoors is what's triggered all this and saved my life at the point when I had given up on myself.
Wow.
10+ years ago. I had not tell people, I want a disclaimer, I wasn't going to walk on top of a mountain and jump off. It was going forward.
Yes.
I was tired. I was exhausted of living the life I was living, and I just gave up. I just was going to wake up every morning, do what I was doing, go to bed at night, wake up the next day, and just wait till I die. And then I was driving around one day, feeling sorry for myself, being a big fat victim, blaming the world and whining and everything. And I pulled up into a lake that's close to where I was at the time. just pulled up and I saw a trailhead, and I think it was called Juniper Trails off Lake Texoma, and you know, so I'm gonna go feel sorry for myself out there. Let's go see what's out there. So I started walking, and things started happening. Things were coming into my head, very unpleasant things, things that all the noise of the world had shut off.
Right.
That I really hadn't dealt with things, and started I started getting a bunch of smacks upside the head, and but I kept walking. Hours went by, it got dark, and when it got dark, I snapped out and went, I better turn around and start going back. But the point is, when I started walking, I never stopped.
That is a powerful story, and I can relate to what you're saying with hiking, Scott. It's a therapeutic thing that you discovered, and it's not something you've done your whole life, but you've done it for the last 10 years. Am I accurate to say that?
Absolutely.
And let me digress back to what you said about minimalistic decisions that you made with your life. That's easy to say. I've done something like that in my life as well. But at the moment, you decide to get rid of so many things that are creature comforts in your life and then to be minimalistic. That was probably not
Yeah.
an easy transition. Did you struggle for a while, and how long was it, if at all?
Absolutely. No, no, no. That's a great question. So I did it the first couple of years when I went out in the trailer. It wasn't anybody can go back and look at my YouTube stuff if they want to. They want to go back that far, and you will see me crying like a big old baby.
Is that right?
I was just, what did I do? I can't believe I did this with my life, and because I was just very uncomfortable, and I was putting myself in situations where uh, I was getting pushed back on with all the things that were going on with me. So I got everything I asked for, and then I was being a big baby about it when it happened, and until I got tired of being that baby, and I was able to push through that, and that's kind of when things loosened up. But being minimal, losing all those comforts. Look, I was, I'm 6'2.5", whatever I am now. I'm 185, 190, any given cheeseburger a day, and but I was at one time when I was 35 years old, I was 260, 265, and
Really?
it wasn't because I was jacked or working out or doing any of that. It was because I was a glutton. It was because I was just, and that was part of my issue too, is food, and just, that was just, a big part of it. But anyways, you lose all those things you're used to. All those things are very convenient. But here's the deal: what I learned through that, pushing through that, and the resilience of that, um, was was the payoff. I mean, it became what I sought out. I wanted to be. I started to say, you know what, this something's happening. So I want to live not only minimalistically and make some big changes. I drove that trailer and then my truck, and now to this day, I drive back on national forest land, public lands. I like to be away from people. That's changing a little bit, but I like to be away from people, and I like to exert my body,
Yes.
and that's what break it down. I like to do hard things.
Yes.
That's why I went on the Appalachian Trail. It
Yes.
wasn't a journey to find myself. I already knew myself. I wanted to test myself on the Appalachian Trail. I wanted to see if I really was mentally there. What my decisions were going to be when we were walking through Rocksylvania, and my foot was about to fall off, which it almost did. But that was all part of it. I know I expanded on that. You asking me about minimalism and all that, but it all ties in. It's the outdoors, everything I was doing, my whole mental stuff. You can't do it in comfort. I couldn't do what I could do in comfort.
Yes.
I think yeah. So,
Well,
yeah, that's
one
what
thing
happened.
I want to comment on something you said, then digress back to when you were younger.
Okay.
I get asked the same question about the Appalachian Trail. What did you learn about yourself on the trail? And this sounds like an arrogant answer, but I didn't learn anything new. I relearned things I had already learned about myself in the past, but they've been dormant for a while, and they just kind of were a
Mhm.
rediscovery. Although we do meet people that do learn something about themselves because it might be the first time they've faced adversity. It wasn't the first time you had faced adversity. It wasn't the first time I'd faced adversity. So that's an important thing, and it's not an arrogant situation. Everyone gets something different out of doing
Yeah.
an Appalachian Trail equivalent or the Appalachian Trail itself. But when you talk about how you were at 30, 35, you're like a completely different man. So
Oh yeah.
what was Scott like in your 20s and 30s? What were your hobbies, if you had any, your thrills?
So at that time in my life, I was on my second marriage, and um, so I was a mix. I was a big mix. So I have a very heavy psychology background. So my mom was a therapist, and she, divorced my dad. I watched her as a working single mom. We were, it was just a couple of years. It was, here's some tuna fish and hamburger meat, make it last a week, that kind of stuff. And, which I appreciate these days. I mean, I appreciate that having that, but, um, and then I watched her go through school, get her bachelor's, her master's, do all her internships, work at the prison system, do all these different things she did to then get in her own private practice and become a therapist, counselor, and all that. But then, anyways, I went to school. The school I have is psychology based, and then I was an administrator. I went up the administrative end. I thought I wanted to be a therapist, but um, I became an administrator of an adolescent residential treatment center for years. So I've always had all this information, all this way too much. I've always been able to help people and always wanted to. And any work that I did was always was benefiting others. And, but then there was this side of me that just didn't latch on to me. That everybody else needed that. I never gave in until that day came to where I gave up on myself, through 5 decades. But you asked me specifically about that time. I was a dad, and I can't. I love being a dad. I just I love that whole process. I love coaching. I loved uh, just I loved everything about it. Making their lunches for school. I wanted to do all that stuff. It was very important to me. And at the same time, is I was still struggling with everything. I wasn't a perfect dad again because I exhibited of a lot of these poor behaviors and decisions and burnouts and self exploding. I just exhibit a lot of that to them. But that was what was an important time for me as far as with my kids and raising my boys. Because when we divorced, my second wife, they were 13 and 15,
Yeah,
and
very
they
young.
came with me.
Yes. Okay.
So it was just me and them for a while. And so, that's part of where I, when my youngest son was moving out and, just all that, that's when I really had this pull to get out and move around. But again, everything I did was just poor behaviors. I didn't, I off and on did anything physical. If I did, played business golf. I was out, golfing with friends or something, or people I worked with, but I wasn't doing anything for myself mentally. I wasn't doing anything at whatsoever. And I was just I was just, when you're just constantly feeding your body and mind with trash and just for years you're a freaking glutton.
Yeah.
And I'm not, when I say this, I'm not talking to anybody specific, and I'm not saying that I don't understand and empathize with what if somebody else is doing it. They're the people that are doing it that I don't get it. But I wouldn't have changed if I didn't accept this savage thought process and the
Yes.
mindset and growing like I did. I didn't need to be pacified and, you know, if there, somebody patting my knee and saying, "Oh, it'll be okay. Let's do some exercises and we'll check in next week and, and then do this and do that." It's like, it didn't connect with me until I started getting bats upside the head. I mean,
Sure.
I needed to be told you're a nothing but a fat pig. What and you tout yourself as being a parent and this father you want to be, yet you're exhibiting none of those behaviors.
Yes.
You're showing them all these things, and I'm like, that's what I needed to hear. I needed people in my face.
Sure.
And that's when I found cognitive behavioral therapy, which I think I expanded on a little bit, but
Sure.
it's getting out of that victim stuff and stop traveling back to relive and
What?
work on what's in the moment
Yes.
and
What
move
age
on
were you? What
forward from
age were
there.
you when you discovered that, Scott? How old were you at the time?
Oh, I think I jumped up on you there, but I wasn't until cognitive behavioral therapy wasn't until when I started going out, actually about 5 years ago.
Wow. And the reason,
Again, these are all these little steps.
sure.
Yeah.
What stands out to me, and what's been a life lesson that I continue to try to learn from people like you, is that you think that when you hit, let's say, 40, and you've established a certain pattern in life, that now you're just going to live your life and live happily ever after, whether it's with someone or on your own. And that's not the case. Each decade, you go through something that's completely new that you weren't expecting. You learn something about yourself, or you have to change something, make a bold decision. And, if you can't apply the lessons that you learned in the past from what you're telling me and put it to a new scenario that gets introduced to you that might be complicated, then you really haven't learned anything in your life. And that's one thing that inspired me about you just in our conversations. And even now, you've shown over decades that you've learned something and applied that lesson to something new that's introduced to you that you weren't expecting to see. That's always powerful, man.
Yeah, and it's again, everybody, that trigger is different for everybody. Some people don't have to go so long or through so much, and that's why, like, my messages on social media is if I it they spread through the following I have, and if you look at my analytics, I have there's a couple of age groups that are a little heavier than others, but I have a pretty wide
Right.
expanse because they relate to everybody, and I'm so appreciative of that because the younger I can, if I can help somebody turn that thought around, or the way they're dealing with things now around, give them anything to think about that will help them make a change the earlier. Oh my gosh, because I know how it feels to have some serenity now, and feel peace, and feel happiness, and look at myself in the mirror and not just, you know, so you're just an idiot. I mean, I those things, I know how they don't, they're just not, they're still there, but they're managed, and they don't latch on anymore. They'll affect me for a minute until my mind's trained to where it will kill
Yes.
whatever is trying to change that. And it's yeah, it's really,
Well,
yeah.
Scott, you're not only an influencing individual, you're inspiring. And I say this all the time. There are certain people that inspired me in my life that saved my life. And so inspiration is a very strong and powerful thing. And you
Yeah.
have that. So let me ask you about your social media platform, because I do follow you and I see your content and it's wonderful. And I know you've reached so many people and probably saved many lives. Do you have any stories that you can share without mentioning any names, unless you feel free to do that, that reached out to you that were at their lowest low, and maybe something you said changed their life and then you helped them kind of move into a new scenario in their situation?
Yeah, there's, I tell people that, you know, if if everybody that really wants to understand why I'm doing this now, look, this all started with me.
Yeah.
I started before the videos. I started putting up memes of a picture of me and a mountain behind me, and something, that I wanted to say to myself and learning. And it was, a lot of the things I say now, were just, written words on a post. Um, and until I started, doing the videos, but they were all me. And I think I said it on a podcast a month and a half ago, and I'm starting to use it more because I like it. But this isn't about me anymore. It was started with me. but it's not about me anymore. It's about everyone. It's about all of us.
Yeah.
And so that's how I treat it now. And to answer your question, people go, what's your motivation now? It's not just me anymore. I get more from the followers, more from all this community that's been built that are constantly encouraging me because I'm way far away from being a finished product and probably never will be. So you're seeing me, heal and make the movements I make. And I always tell everybody, any of these friendly reminders I put up, I want, if anybody sees me, anybody knows me, anybody passes me on the road or anything's going on and they see or think or I'm exhibiting anything that goes against anything I've said, let me have it,
Yes.
That's very important. But getting back to what you said, it's, if anybody goes and looks at my comments, the post I put up today and go back a year, look at the comments in there.
Yeah.
It's not one.
That's right.
It's not four. It's hundreds. And a lot of them are, oh my God, thank you again. You got me out of this toxic relationship. You gave me the confidence and self-worth to know I could move forward. I got out of a toxic job and I started my own business or done whatever. Or you just literally saved my life. It translates into a lot of people that are in recovery.
Yes.
That are, or addicts and things like that are very, latched onto a lot of the things that I have to say. So it's very broad, but I always tell everybody when they reach out, and I try to do the best I can. It gets sometimes very, very hard to do, especially when I'm traveling, but to get back to everybody. But when I get direct messages and things like that are addressing something that seems really important or can make a real difference, I usually just tell them, I said, look, you need to turn your thoughts around and you need to look at what's happening with you right now as an opportunity.
Yes.
So like, oh my God, my husband just left me or somebody cheated on me or I just can't get out of this pattern or, whatever. That's the first thing I say. It's the first thing I type back. Stop. Look at this as an opportunity.
Yes.
Okay. If you're constantly getting in these poor relationships, with these toxic people, this is an opportunity for you to look at yourself.
Yes.
And ask yourself, this is that self-care savage stuff. It's time to go to work on yourself. Here's that opportunity. Here you can see something that triggered it. Why do you keep doing that?
Oh.
Not why do these people do that? Or it's another toxic person or they're so toxic, Well, look, why do you keep allowing them in your life? So it's always, that's one of the first things that when you ask me that I can think of that probably I say a lot is, look, this is an opportunity. Let's, and you take this as an opportunity so you can get past it, learn and grow, make better decisions in the future, go back and heal, understand it's all an opportunity.
Yes.
And so, and I think that's very, very important. And then if they take it on, they need to take it on and they need to savage up and they need to shut up and they need to do the damn work. No more whining, no more victim. Get out of all that stuff as fast as you can.
Preach it. The savage up, everything you're saying just resonates with me. And I think what stood out to me again, when I got to know you and you said it already, is the fact that you don't come across as someone that tries to pretend you're a finished product. As you said, you're a work in progress. We all are. Our feet are made of clay as humans. Sometimes we melt, we have to rebuild. And I've always responded to leaders in my past and mentors that had that. And there's some that don't. And that's why I think you stood out to me and why it resonates when I see and hear your messages. So with your social media platform, it's very impressive. Are you just on Instagram? I don't do TikTok. Are you on TikTok as well?
Yeah, I have. TikTok is where I started doing the videos because that's what TikTok was about. Okay. Before they got really hot, and then Instagram needed to understand they needed to start plugging there's in which came up with Reels, and then of course now YouTube has Reels, and then also now just Facebook. And but yes, I Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So I've got a, I'm on, I don't know, 580 something thousand on Instagram,
Wow.
which is just amazing. I've got 550,000 on TikTok, which is just like, because people always talk about TikTok being this, well, it's just about dances and doing all that kind of stuff. That's one side of TikTok. And that's a very big side of TikTok, and very, and that's where a lot of the younger people are too. But there is this side of TikTok too, evidenced by a 62-year-old man getting on his phone, walking on a trail, yelling something at you, and people watching it. So it's interesting. Then I also have Facebook. It's got like 23,000. Then I have YouTube that I'm working on with a new series and doing some things. It's got about almost 10,000, and I'm trying to learn and get better at doing long form
Okay.
with me, and we've talked about it because I've asked you to participate in it. But with expanding on a little bit of this message of the outdoors and hiking and how it helps heal the mind, body, and soul, how it does for me, and bringing people on that have some of that to say about that, as well as have had some challenges in their lives, and just get to know them better, and people that are giving back, people that are putting things out that are helping people, such as you, and people that have touched my lives. You touched my life on the Appalachian Trail. Just the fact, sitting down at camp one night and having a conversation we had about things, and
Yeah.
it's I'm very appreciative of anybody that takes the time to do that with me. So, anyways, I hope I answered your question.
You did, and I appreciate you saying that. And I look forward to doing something with you as well. Um,
Yeah.
when you come up with your friendly reminders, and they're always great quotes, great anecdotes, I can tell they're personalized because it's probably something you've either experienced yourself or somebody shared with you. Do you find yourself, Scott, where you're on a hike, it comes to you in the moment? Do you break your phone out right then and record it? Or do you think about it when you're at home and then 2 days later on a hike, then you make your video? What's your process for this?
Yeah, that's yeah. So it's mostly it's still a lot of being on trail and feeling it and pulling my phone out, because people ask me, where do you get your content, or and some people are like, it's amazing, you're brilliant, where does all this come from? Well, thank you, and I am amazing and brilliant and all that. No, I'm kidding. It's 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 stuff I read, it's stuff I'm absorbing,
Yeah.
it's stuff that does make a difference to me, and I take something from it that I can make a quick something about it that relates to what I'm doing, or I'll take a direct quote that is powerful to me, and I just spit it out with my words. It's I
Great.
love the quote and love what it means, and it just comes out, the way that the works, the way I needed to hear it, and the way it's filtering through me. So I do. Look, social media is a tough game as far as if you're wanting to. I want to spread my message. Again, this wasn't about me. I mean, about anybody else at the beginning. It was just about me. I didn't care. I didn't care about any of this stuff. But it's an obligation now, and I take it very, very seriously, because I cannot. I can't stop. There's too much. I've created too much of reliance on it that people need,
Yeah.
and I want to honor that because I want to. Because how can you not? Again, if anybody wants to know what drives me, go look at my comments. So it's that's what it's all about. But as far as creating the content, it's mostly what I'm reading, absorbing. Look, it used to be, it gets more a little difficult now. It used to be a lot easier, and here's why, real quick. When I first started doing this, I needed a lot of work. I mean, when I needed a lot of work, I couldn't get my head straight unless I was 3 or 4 hours after I woke up. First, killing the anxiety and all the demons, and then going to work to get my headspace right, absorbing content of the people I did, reading, doing my own journaling, doing my own work and my non negotiables. 3 or 4 hours sometimes before I could get into a state where I was better for myself for the day so I could get better, so I could be better for others. So I had ammunition, excuse my language, coming out my ass. I mean, friendly reminders are just, I mean, it was easy.
Yeah, right.
So now I could get a lot of stuff when I wake up in the morning again. Sometimes they're not even there now to where they're really bothersome. You know, it's like this automatic thing is just killing them before they get to where I think about them. Or the work I have to do is very short now. So I still, you know, again, I'm still not regimented. I do my reading, I absorb my content, and I do my journaling things, but it's just not this thing that so it's so there's a lot more thought into what I do now because I don't want to put anything out that has value, and a lot of it's open ended. You know, a lot of people, the only trolls that I really have, or people, even not the trolls. The trolls are a separate deal. The trolls are trolls. They really don't count. They're just these invisible things. The haters, or the people it triggers, are like, I can't believe that you can't say that about this, or you know that or the other. Well, first of all, I can. I just did, and but the deal is it's not it's meant for me first. You know, if anybody's getting anything from it, great. That's another thing I say. Take what fits, throw away the rest. If you don't, if it doesn't, you know, I don't need you to regurgitate it on a post and tell me, you know, I just completely gave information that was false or whatever. No, it's
You
not.
mentioned trolls on the internet. Everyone has their fair share of haters or people that are negative. Have you experienced that, and how do you deal with that on your social media platforms?
So a couple things. Yes, I do get them and I experience them. But I feel very fortunate that in comparison, not a lot. I mean, I don't get them as much as a lot of other people do, but I don't deal with them anymore. So it, jump back 5 years and ask me this question, and I'll be the last one with the last word with whatever's going on.
Yeah.
And that was still just that old behavior and still all that yucky stuff and all that, just to kind of tell you where I'm at now. But it's still holding on. Just you know, people being critical and feeling like I'm not perfect, and or they're not seeing me as perfect, or they're you know, just all that stuff still going on with me. Up you know, still 5 years ago, even though I had done so much work up to that point, to now, I don't care. I literally feel very bad for them because I know um, that they're hurting people. They are people that are damaged themselves. For them to take time out of their day to make comments to try to trigger somebody, to try to trigger a response, that's their payoff for them. And so
Right.
that when I get to that, that's their payoff. That's what they're looking for. They don't care whether you go on this tangent with them or if you just say, hey, leave me alone or whatever. It's just the fact you responded, and then they let all the little troll group buddies know, hey, I got this guy hooked, go get him.
Yeah.
So I literally don't respond if and there's two levels. If they just throw something out and they're being negative, like I told you before, somebody saying, hey, I don't agree with you, you know, you're off track, whatever, I just leave it alone. I leave it on there. It needs to be on there. Other people need to see it. I'm good with that. If they're being rude and they're just, again, I know, you know, you get on social media long enough, you better recognize that. So I know what I just block them. There's no questions. I don't do anything. I just block them.
Good for you. So that's would you give that as advice to everyone that deals with that, or is that just how you feel like you deal with it best?
No, I, so let me tell you what bothers me. And I will, even people I've followed that they've given me a lot of inspiration. Don't take any of that away from them. If they start getting caught up in that and they start making posts about trolls,
Yes.
and to start getting all that, I don't block them, but I don't follow them anymore because it's it's a they're first of all, they're doing, a lot of them are doing it for views. They're doing it for their own kind of deal, and to get whatever. It's just, I know I'm fumbling on my words here, but I think people are making a huge mistake. It's a bad game to get into. It's
It's a bully.
it's like it's yeah, exactly. And it's also like being on these roads here driving. That's something that drives me crazy. I look at half these people on these roads as trolls because they bother the heck out of me. But I have to control myself, and I know it's my own stuff going on because they're cowards. And here's, let me explain that. When you have these people, like when I'm coming through Baton Rouge today, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. But you get these people that are just rammed right behind you, and they're just,
Oh yeah.
trying to look around you, like that's somehow going to make a difference. All this pressure when there's a trucker to the right. Hey, just give me a minute, do all this stuff. But here's the deal. Like for you, for example, I'm not going to use me. You're an ex-Marine, 20 years, you're trained in all kinds of stuff. And you're a physical, you're very physical presence, as a man. That person is not going to walk up on you in the mall and get behind you in a line and put that kind of pressure on you. But they'll do it in a car when you can't, when there's, they can get away with it.
Good example. It's like
That to
being on the
me,
internet. Yeah.
that to me is a coward.
Yeah. It's like being on the internet, right? Being in the confines and comfort of your
Exactly.
vehicle as protection.
And it's the same thing with troll, whatever. It's
Good
look there,
comparison.
that person, look, I know I can empathize with
Yeah.
the road rage because I still have to work on it. I don't rage at anybody anymore, but boy, I can get worked up. But anyways, that's the best way I can kind of relate that again is they're just not going to do that. I'm pretty sure you can tell me
Oh
there's
yeah.
probably been very few times in your life, if maybe never, that some small guy, girl, whatever, decides you weren't going fast enough and they were just going to get right up on you and start pressuring you. They're not going to do it. So anyway,
I've got a few experiences, unfortunately, and
I'm sure you do.
you
There's some
know,
crazy people.
welcome to the great state of Louisiana, by the way. And I'm not going to defend the people in Louisiana, but the Cajun spice, boudin, and crawfish etouffee make you do some crazy things on the highway.
Whew. Yeah,
My
but
Louisiana people will
it's
love that.
anyways, it's everywhere. But anyways,
You mind if I ask you a few
did
like
I answer your question?
you did, and I appreciate it.
Okay.
You did sincerely, because everyone deals with a bully. Everyone can deal with an internet troll. It could be even someone you know, like right. If you post on a social media platform, Facebook, Instagram, and one of your family members disagrees with your politics, your views on religion, or something that you just say that you're feeling, someone always wants to try and almost attack you to try to get more of a rise out of you because they don't agree. And that, in a sense, is a troll. It's not as easy to block a family member or a friend, but it can cause chaos and problems. In person, coffee table, face to face, maybe that wouldn't exist in the same way, but people find comfort on the internet and social media platforms to hide behind their words. And that's what I got from what you said.
I would, yeah, absolutely. And just to add to that, just a little bit from what you just said, I would tell myself, or I would tell my kids that get good at blocking whoever it is without questioning who they are.
Okay.
The deal is, like, if you watch, I whenever I have a pocket of time and things like that, I try to do lives,
Yes.
as I can. And there, give it about 20, 30 minutes of being on a live, then the trolls have found you, and you start getting things. But it's you have it you I don't let I tell it all up front, and as soon as somebody does it, I don't do anything. Sometimes you can see me on a live filling around with my deal to block somebody.
Oh.
It's I don't talk about politics. I don't allow politics to be, and I don't talk about religion, and I don't talk about current world events. And those are baiting questions.
They
Those
are.
are things where people do want to trigger you. I, I, I still get direct messages, and I still get all these people on my lives that go, "Are you vaccinated?"
Yeah, not
Oh
even
yeah,
in. Oh man.
let's talk about that and see how that goes.
Yeah, and that's not even the
You
in
know?
content of what you're discussing on your live. Nothing to do
No,
with it. Yeah,
no, yeah. And then if you don't, it's just all the every look. It's so it's just best you ignore it if you can't get to it or whatever, or
sure.
completely just delete them. If they're not going to get better, and
That's
there's
right.
not anything I can say on that live to go, well, talk about why you would just say that to me right now. I mean, so it doesn't do any good. And so,
Doesn't.
out of respect, again, this is where it gets back to my community, people that follow me. It's out of respect. Look, it's out of respect. I'm not going to waste my time dealing with that stuff. I'm going to
Yeah,
deal with what's important, and
good on you.
what the topic is and things like that. So, anyways, just to expand a little bit.
Well, it's a great point because when you take the social media point out of it, I remember in my earlier career, I told somebody this recently where I would say things out loud like I didn't care what someone thought about me. But when I knew there was one person that didn't buy into the things that I was trying to do to be efficient, it bothered me to a point where I confronted them. And I realized after some time and effort, I can't change their viewpoint on me by trying to talk and explain. My actions are the only thing I can rely on and be who I am. And if you take that same application, like we talked earlier, and apply that to social media, then you should be able to navigate that world and be somewhat successful. So I
Yeah,
appreciate the advice.
one of my favorite friendly reminders is always talks about that. Not caring what people say or what they think
Yeah,
or things like that, because you can't change them. Just like you said,
no,
you can't change anything about them.
that's right.
And what you can do is change you. And
Yeah.
if that change is you learn to not let it get to you and you just move on or whatever. And then the last thing I want to say that it just made me thought, you asked what kind of person I kind of was back in my 30s.
Yeah.
Look, if you wanted to debate, I don't care if I knew I was wrong at the beginning. I was still going to have the last word.
Yeah.
I could still get louder than you could. This is what was going on in my head. And so those are, they just, there's no self worth in that. There's no self peace.
Right.
There's nothing in that.
You
It's
recognize it.
all, and what you're doing is you are spewing your hurtfulness. It's like trolls and things like that. You're there. It's just being spewed on everyone around you.
Yeah.
It's all this collateral damage that your own past and your traumas that you're not willing to deal with because you're weak minded right now and you're disrespecting yourself every day.
Right.
It's easier to address other people's issues than to like take a look at yourself. And that's part of what I was doing. That's part of what I want to make that very clear. I spewed on everybody for years. I
Yeah.
mean, I, was a great person in a lot of ways. I won't take that away from me. But again, getting into the situations like that, it just oozed out all over everybody. All this that I had inside of me
Yes.
that I was not willing to go take care of. Anyways.
Well, to be vulnerable, I mentioned this earlier and I'll say it again. I relate to you in so many ways, and I've gone through my own journey. Everyone, I think, goes through something like this, but to be able to recognize your flaws and how you make the change, it's not easy to do. But when you can make that change and be the thing that stops it and gets on a new track, that's a very powerful thing. And it's very difficult. And as you described it, but as you pointed out to how you were where you needed the last word, is that a form of like a narcissist or narcissism? Would you say that's part of that? Did you,
No, that
did you,
was
you didn't find
me.
yourself to be narcissistic in the past, did you?
No, mine was all geared around the self worth part. That's where I was trying to gained traction of the payoff would have been for me to win that,
Yeah.
always winning that, to not to draw attention, or I was not intentionally trying to have a toxic presentation or whatever. And narcissism and narcissists mostly know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing what I needed to do as to protect my integrity, my how people looked at me, and if I would have given in or dropped at any time, I would have been weak.
I got you.
And so it was all that dysfunctional way of trying to be a man or trying to be, you know, something by just being louder, go longer,
Oh yeah.
all those with what you're trying to do. And yeah, so I don't see that. I don't, yeah. Um, but I can see where some people think that could be part of it.
So where you are right now in your life, Scott, are you happy with who you are right now?
Um, yes, right now, today, I'm where I'm at and what I'm doing. I'm happy and I have so much peace. I still deal with my own anxiety. I still deal with that. I want to be real with people, but I manage it so
Yes.
much better with the mindset I have now. And I recognize those things mostly are not ever probably going to go away. So it's just my job to be better for myself and to be better for others, to do the work, self care, savage work, do my non negotiables, what works for me, so I'm better than I was yesterday as much as I can be. And
Right.
so, yes, I am. But man, talk to me in 10 years and, hopefully I'll be, I mean, I'm not, I don't think I'll ever be on a mountain, like this, but I will, again, grandkids are going to come someday, all those kind of things.
Sure.
I want to be, I want to be active and I want to be top notch for them. And I
Sure.
just want to be the best I can be. Those are my whys and my important, those are what's important to me.
Well,
Anyway,
self progress and self maintenance are continuous. It's not
yes.
an ending date. So let me ask you a few questions, kind of rapid fire, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Be the fact that you love to hike and you travel quite a bit. What's your favorite type of terrain to actually hike in?
The if you go to up by Leadville, Twin Lakes, up in Colorado area,
Yeah.
close to the Rockies,
Yeah.
and you get on the Colorado Trail, which also intersects with the Continental Divide and parts of that. It's the greatest thing in the world.
Any
It's
terrain?
the trees,
Yeah.
there's some ups and downs, but it's more switchbacks, and it's just and it opens up, and then it's just the air, everything around
Sure.
Colorado at elevations, it just get
Amazing.
clearer and cleaner.
Do you have any terrain
So
or do you have any terrain or weather that can dampen your enthusiasm when you go out on a hike to try to yeah. I already know probably the answer.
the Appalachian Trail and the rain. No,
No, it's not raining.
I actually did the most miles I ever did were the days that were raining.
Right.
So because all I was focused on was the trail, is moving forward and getting, as far as I could, especially if it was a little bit of a reach. But no, I don't think so. I think the Appalachian Trail taught me a lot because of being on it so long. Look, you put me on any terrain you want or any elevations you want, I may struggle a lot to deal with it. But when you deal with it for 94 days and, you tear your body up and, there's a different, that's different. So there's a little bit of difference in through hiking or attempting a through hike or backpacking for long distance backpacking than anything else. So the Appalachian Trail is amazing. There'll be a day I probably will finish the 700 miles, but it's yeah, it is.
Well,
It was interesting.
when you say that to finish the 700 miles, just to kind of allude to this, because I witnessed your injury, your wound, it really wasn't, I don't know
Yeah,
if I
you're one
call
of the
that
few
injury.
people
You
sent it
showed it
to.
to me.
I showed it to this one girl I hiked with the other day, but she wanted to see it. So
Something as simplistic as a toe. You think that, somebody might read that or hear that and think, hey, battle through it, which you did. How far did you think you pushed yourself looking back where you think, man, if I would have gotten off the trail and had it treated this much earlier, I would have been okay? Because it was a pretty severe wound. Your
so
bone is showing.
here's it's yeah. Well, it went down to the tendon and the bone. They called it a deep laceration. But so here's the thing. I This was a big part of that Appalachian Trail, and this is it's interesting you brought that up because I think it's really important. I am again. I'm about doing hard things in my life. I'm about pushing myself as far as I can go to where part of what I wanted to learn, and I'm still learning, and I still learning on the Appalachian Trail with my toe, was when to reel myself back in.
Right.
Because, and my point being is, when I was in Sedona a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, I saw some ruins off on the side, and when I was on this cliff area, and so I got off trail and started climbing to get to them, doing stupid stuff. I had no business doing that. And I fell 15 feet and I tore the meniscus in my right knee, sprained my left, and separated my shoulder.
Ouch.
And I was actually a little stranded out there, and the Rangers wouldn't come get me, which is understandable. That's not a you son of a
Life,
bitches.
it's
That's
not life
Look,
threatening.
they were busy. They were busy,
Yeah.
and they said, "Look, is it life threatening?" And I said, "No, it's not
No.
life threatening." They said, "Do you have some water?" I said, still got some water." Well, if nothing happens, nobody comes along or whatever, just check back in with us. So, anyways, that's a whole nother story we can get into someday. But so I did that. I recovered from that, and it was so that was 2.5 years ago, maybe. So maybe a year later, and again, recovered means I work through a lot of pain still with my meniscus, but I'm not going to have surgery. Anyways, I was on the Colorado Trail. That's where I was around that Leadville area,
Okay.
and I needed to get over this river, but the river was it was moving a little quick, and it was quite a little bit of a leap. And my mind kept saying, "What's wrong? What's wrong with you? What do you mean you're going to try to leap over that?" And I did it anyways because that's the problem sometimes I have with myself. And so I tried to leap it. The log that I didn't make, they're so
Right.
brittle.
Right.
It just collapsed. I barely got a hold of the limb, and then the rushing water took me this other way, and I tore the inner lining of my chest wall.
Ouch.
Now, those things are just two examples of me doing stupid stuff, which leads to your question around my toe. So my toe was getting pretty jacked up. Now, I never have had a deep laceration on my toe. I've never really had much that I haven't felt I could get through. This wasn't going to jump a river, and I wasn't climbing somewhere I shouldn't. And but what I did was I started taping it because there was some rain coming. There was things different happening on different days. Like one day, I think, I don't know if I was around you any of those times, but there was just rain for 2 days.
Oh yeah.
So it was getting bad and open. And so the only thing I do is tape it. One thing, the only thing I had was I had a little bit of electrical tape and some tissue and stuff. And then I was just doing, but I taped it to where with the rain and things were happening, I wasn't going to untape it even when there was a break in the rain because I didn't have anything else to tape it with. So what I did was I went too long without opening it up and
Yeah.
taking care of it and cleaning it up.
So did the opposite.
And so what it did was it got infected before I knew it. And I have a high pain tolerance to begin with, but it started really hurting, and I was just powering through it. And I was eating ibuprofen's like it was candy.
Right.
And then my foot started hurting, and then because my foot got infected. Now I didn't know any of this, but anyways, so I got at the 1,436.2 mile mark, which is in New York, not far from, I think, Connecticut was the next state. And I got off, and there was really nothing around but at this trailhead, and I couldn't get any service. So I had to walk down a road, I don't know, for several miles until I got some service. And then I tried to get an Uber. I'm giving you a long story. Then I tried to get an Uber, and every time it connected with an Uber and said they'd be here in 20 minutes or whatever, it'd be 10 minutes later, it'd get canceled because they probably looked where I was, and they weren't coming out there.
Yeah.
So if finally somebody came out, and so I had them take me to a hotel first because I wanted to go all through all this with them, and I just wanted, I think a lot of us guys, especially when we get some age, it's like one thing at a time. Look, I knew I wasn't going to die,
Right.
and I knew I had some pain, but I needed to know I had my place.
That's right.
I had, no matter what happened, I had my space. I could go back to it or leave it or whatever. So that's just the way I am. So I got a hotel room, and then I went to urgent care. And he unwrapped it, and the first thing he said was, "What is wrong with you?" And I said, "Well, I'm hiking the Appalachian Trail," and I just gave him a little backstory. And I said, he said, "Well, it's all the way down. You have a deep laceration all the way down to the bone and the tendon. And it's infected, and it's infected your foot." And I was like, okay. I don't respond. I'm still working on a little bit of that. I don't respond real well to parenting. I'm a 62-year-old man. So look, you unwrapped it. I can see it too. I know it hurts because that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I don't need all this. So
do you shut down? Do you shut down in that moment?
Well, yes, I leave it alone because I don't necessarily shut down, but I'm very aware of it now.
Yeah.
So I'm just not gonna respond very well unless they get a direct question. They can say whatever they want. I'm just not gonna. It just doesn't do me any good to buy into it.
Yeah.
And if I do go back 25 years, it's not gonna do any of us any good, and the whole building any good. So it was just best to, that's how I deal with things now that I still struggle with, which I do. Anyways, gave me some antibiotics, and I didn't take any over-the-counter medication for 8 years before I got on the Appalachian Trail. And I just started eating ibuprofens because of just, what Appalachian Trail does to you. And I haven't taken any other medications over the counter, and I never really did as much as I did abuse my body. But so anyways, he gave me some antibiotics. I stayed in the hotel room for 3 or 4 days. They did kill what I felt, the infection, because my foot started feeling better. My toe was just trashed.
Yeah.
And what he told me was, here's what he said. He said, you can go back out there. He says, but the chances are high, if this is how you're going to operate, you will not have a toe at minimum when you finish. Because he said, how far do you have to go? I said, 700 miles. He goes, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And so he said, here, and he laid it out for me. And now I was listening because he was fixing the layout of, here's how it is, and here's my advice for the solution. It's a deep laceration. Looking at this, looking at all the damage around everything, it's going to take a minimum of 6 weeks to heal to where it's closed.
Right.
And that's if you just relax and get up and walk when you have to. So that's when I called, after kind of sitting on that, watching it kind of heal a little bit. And I was still trying to figure out, you kind of get a little denial. Oh, yeah. Even though I was actually finished, I didn't even want to be on trail anymore. That's another story.
Oh, yeah.
But I was going to finish and had full intentions of it. And this is what I'm talking about. This is that part where I hurt myself. And I was told, if you do continue, you're going to lose your toe. Or it's going to, and you're certainly not going to be able to do it by October 15th before they close.
Right.
All that. Nothing was in my favor, but I was still trying to figure out how it's going to work, push through it. So I still have an imbalance that I'm still working on. I have a way of an imbalance of pulling back
Sure.
a little bit.
Well,
And so,
it sounds like intelligence over ego, and I think that's a very valuable lesson, right?
yeah,
That's what it sounds like to me, that
yeah.
you were smart enough to realize it wasn't worth 700 miles to lose your toe. There's another day to fight.
Well, I went home. I called my son. I said, "You're gonna have to come pick me up at the airport. I just got a ticket." And I went home, and again, uh, I was just trying to figure out, well, what can I do to make it back? I was actually testing how I could wrap it up and doing all this stuff that was not. There was no way to work that out. So, anyways, time went by. Eventually, it did heal. He was right. Right at about 6 weeks, that sucker closed up. It's still very thin and tender, and I have to be careful with it if I do too much to make sure it's taped right. And I'm not. If I do a longer backpacking trip, then I'll figure out how to manage it then, knowing what I have to deal with. But it was when it healed up is when that was about 6 weeks point. I was finally there.
Right.
I was like, I probably could try to figure this out and power through it, but I don't want to. I already pushed my body. That was part of just and I already figured out I was not responding well to that part.
Sure.
Like you said, could I have done it sooner? Was there a realization of that? No, that's the problem.
All
And
right.
so, but I'm getting better at that. I do think more. I do take the time like I do with everything else now. That part too, I do assess it a little bit more because I am 62.
Based on your current lifestyle, when you hike and when you backpack, whether it's a day hike or a long hike, do you do anything at your campsites to keep your body fit, like yoga, Pilates? Do you do any exercises, stretching? What's your routine in that regard?
I do now, and I did not when I was on the AT. And but because of how I felt, um, I I was not. Would have felt better doing that. I don't. I think I had told you before when I came off and when all that happened. Anyways, I felt so weak and so tight and so just overly sore. All these things that I didn't do. It's the first time I'd ever done long distance backpacking of any kind. So it was never something I ever. And so again, I didn't do it, but I do now. So I stretch as much as I can. I just have this little five little thing routine that I do with stretching. And then I carry around small weights, 10 pound and 15 pound weights that I do some different things with, just to keep my strength up, um, and to feel stronger. I don't, the pursuit of being jacked is passed me by.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just not, it's just too much involved in it, too much work so I just want to stay strong and flexible. So
Yes.
I do now. I do have little routines. Yes, sir.
That's great to hear. And very important, as you said, especially as you age, you know how important flexibility, quality of life is extremely important. So when you get off of a trail or you've been physically exerting yourself all day, what's your favorite go-to meal when you have an opportunity to get something?
Oh,
Yeah.
if there's a burger, that's just
Yeah.
all. I mean, I mean, that's just it. It's hands down. If that's what's available, if a burger's available, that's what I'm getting, and it's usually going to have as much as everything I can put on it.
That's awesome. You cannot beat a burger, right? It's just the greatest thing to go to.
Oh, yeah, just
Even
amazing.
I've
Yeah.
seen
So
vegetarians and vegans on the Appalachian Trail get a burger when they have the chance after being starved for a while.
you are 100 there because I'll tell you this girl that I hiked with Monday that I did this series with, Kaylee. She did the AT in 2021.
Okay.
But when I was asking her, about is she okay eating a burger and all that, I said because I always check people. A lot of people are vegan. She said she used to be a vegan until she went on the Appalachian Trail. And because there was a time where you just couldn't make it happen in a sensible way.
Yeah.
So she started eating everything. And so she hasn't gone back. So, that's just kind of interesting. So, and that was a burger. That was the kind of thing that kind of triggered her too. So
That's awesome.
Kind of funny.
Well, Scott, it's been great talking to you. Thanks for doing this and taking the time out of your day while you're traveling to spend time chatting.
Only for you, man. I would only do this for you.
I'm going to keep you to that. I'm going to remind you of that every time we have a chance to chat in the future. But I appreciate you sincerely. So with that being said, I'm going to give you the last word. If there's anything you want to close out on.
No, well, I mean, only that I just really want people to be better than themselves. And the only way they're going to be better than themselves is to go through some things that are painful and things that hurt. And there's nothing like being in the present. So I'm going to leave you with a friendly reminder. You can play it or not, but it's just one of my favorites. Never was one of the more popular ones, but let me see if I can get in the mood here. Friendly reminder. Right now, this moment is the only moment that matters. So,
amen.
That's what I think.
Thanks for sharing that. What a great way to end it. I appreciate it, Scott. You have a safe trip, and I'll be in touch.
You too, man.
Thanks, man.
All right. Take care, sir. All right. Bye.